Welcome to our cottage in Grand Bend.
Just purchased about 6 months ago for $1.15 million, and we are tearing it down. 2 doors down, has a helicopter pad on the roof.
Guys.
So if the neighbor two doors down was able to get a helicopter pad on their roof, we're pretty confident in our ability to get permits for what we're looking to do. What we did was we went with a double offer strategy. The idea of this strategy is to figure out what the motivation of the seller is. Are they looking for price or are they looking for terms? With that little bit of information, that's where I kind of had the feeling that a VTB could be in play here. So what we did is we wrote this up as 2 separate offers, and you talk to some agents and they'll say this is illegal, you can't do it. Get yourself a new agent, because this is absolutely totally legal. And what we asked for on this was $1 million vendor take back at a 3-year term at a 3.99% interest rate. The number one thing people ask is, how do you get these things?
That is genius. I've never heard of someone doing that.
Hey everybody, I'm Kyle Ford.
And I'm Chelsea Middleton.
We're here in Grand Bend, Ontario, where Chelsea and I bought our first cottage just over a year ago. Little did we know that in that year we'd be on to our 3rd cottage and building our retirement plan and lifestyle dream up here in this beautiful location. To the right here is actually a section of our one cottage, 150 by 65 foot section. That's a private beach that's owned by our one cottage. So if you ever saw the picture of Justin Bieber here in Grand Bend, he was actually sitting right about where we are. So next time you're here, Justin, come see us across the road here. So if you check out the location that we have here, you can see this is the main cottage just behind us, where the beach is out front, and this is our garage on the back. What we're looking to do when we redesign this cottage is maximize our building space back here. So getting rid of this dead zone that we have and turning this into square footage, usable square footage, so we can maximize our year-round vacation rentals. So to put this into perspective, our new cottage is going to start about 10 feet behind us there and go all the way out to where the front of this cottage is going to be. To put it into perspective for you, this is a very long, narrow lot. So we're going to have a 2-story cottage with a walkout basement and a drive-in garage. And we're targeting in the 3 to 3,500 square foot range for this property.
Yeah, so some of the things that we want to do in order to make this a 4-season rental property is we want to actually in the basement area, put a games room, pool table maybe, foosball, ping pong, some dartboards, and then have that basement area walk out to a hot tub, which really, really helps for those year-round rentals and help us generate some income in the off-season as well.
So Grand Bend is definitely known for its beaches, so that's what we're going to emphasize here. The cottage is going to be, as I mentioned, 2 stories. On the top level, it's going to have 2 master suites facing out over the water, and on the back half of the cottage, it's going to have 4 smaller bedrooms. The reason why we're doing it like this is we want these bedrooms to make sure everybody has a queen bed with small end tables. There's not going to be a ton of room around them, but it's going to basically be so everyone has a comfortable place to sleep. We're going to have a bathroom on the back. So on the top floor, we're targeting 6 beds, 3 baths. When you come down to the main floor, if you want to come on with me out front here. So when we come down to the main floor of the property, the front of the cottage is going to be out here with the big kitchen, dining area, and a grand room, as well as the back half of the cottage is going to include a 3rd master suite. This property is owned by myself, my sister, and my mom, and we want to make sure that all 3 of us have a master bedroom to stay in. Specifically, as my mom ages, we want to make sure that one of those is on the main floor. Below that, we're going to have the garage is going to come in, where you drive into the garage on the lower level. The games room will be down into here, and it's going to also walk out onto the main level here. When we originally designed this property, we were going to add a rooftop patio to it. Maybe a little bit excited in the beginning.
Yeah.
We've decided to really emphasize one of the most exclusive things that we have on this property, which is right out the front here. You can see this fenced off area is a total of 150 by 65 feet. And this is a private beach exclusive to this cottage. This is located in one of the most premier spots in Grand Bend. And rather than putting people upstairs on a rooftop patio, we want them to be downstairs enjoying the beach.
You guys have heard me talk about A, B, and C offers. Well, that's exactly what Kyle did with his $1.15 million cottage that we're standing in right now. It's actually a teardown, but what I find fascinating is the way you went about negotiating this deal. So if you don't mind, I know the audience could learn a lot.
Absolutely. So what we did was we went with a double offer strategy. The idea of this strategy is to figure out what the motivation of the seller is. Are they looking for price, or are they looking for terms? Are they looking for cash now? Or if they can get more cash by holding on a little bit longer, are they willing to wait? So we had a bit of an inside scoop here. This is a small community. We found out a little bit about the sellers before. We understand that this is not their only property, and they weren't necessarily looking to sell the property because they didn't love it. They weren't looking to sell the property because they needed the money. They were looking to sell it because they just didn't want to deal with the maintenance anymore.
Gotcha.
So with that little bit of information, that's where I kind of had the feeling that a VTB could be in play here. So what we did is we wrote this up as two separate offers, and you talk to some agents and they'll say this is illegal, you can't do it. Get yourself a new agent, because this is absolutely totally legal. So what we did is we did two offers. The first offer, first of all, the asking price of the property was $1.3 million. So the first offer we came in at, it had been listed for some time, we came in at $1 million. It was 60-day close, and we just put a condition on a home inspection. We communicated with them that we understand that the property is older. We just wanted some time to go through it and make sure that there wasn't any massive surprises. So with the second offer, what we did is we did a $1.1 million ask, so $100,000 more, 90-day close, a little bit longer closing, same conditional upon home inspections. With this strategy, it was the idea that we were going to develop the property, so we wanted conditional on being able to attain building permits. And what we asked for in this was $1 million vendor take back at a 3-year term at a 3.99% interest rate. So very similar offers, but obviously if somebody's willing to hold the financing, we can pay a little bit more for the property.
So I'm sure the audience has a bunch of different questions. I think question number one is, how do you go about trying to learn more about a seller?
Depending if you're dealing directly with the seller or if you have a great realtor. In this scenario, it's a smaller town. We have a great realtor.
Local to the area.
Local to the area, and he was able to just ask the questions. He told them a lot about us, who we were, that we'd owned a property across the street already, that we were looking to expand, that we do other investments. So we offered to meet the seller in this scenario, but the seller was more interested in the numbers. They weren't interested in the emotional side. They were interested in their security, which was their property, and what our exit strategy was on this.
And then, so when you're making two offers, are you like including a cover letter, or are you having your realtor make a bit of an explanation about why you're making two offers? How do you go about that?
So right when we found out the seller wasn't really interested in meeting us, we didn't think a cover letter was going to help us. It sounded like it was more about the numbers. So we just had our realtor do some selling on the fact that this is not our first deal. The one, as we go, we'll get into the counter offer here, but in the counter offer, the one thing that they added was a net worth statement. They wanted to see who we were financially, not so much emotionally. So obviously not an issue for us. Whenever you're doing any type of private lending, I shouldn't say whenever, most time when you're doing private lending, private borrowing, they're going to want a personal guarantee from you anyways. So I'm happy to disclose what I have to somebody specifically in those scenarios.
Makes sense. And so they didn't accept either offer.
They didn't accept either offer, which is okay. I like to say there's the 4 tiers. There's the big yes, the little yes, the little no, and the big no. What I'm looking for in every deal is I want a little no. A big no means you've insulted the seller and you maybe aren't going to be able to do business. A little no means nice try, you're going to have to try something new. So we got a little no on this, which basically came back at, they actually countered both offers.
Interesting.
So they came, which told me a lot was they don't really, there's not a specific motivation. These people will take the cash if they could take the cash. They'll take the they'll take the vendor take back, if that makes sense. But their motivation is they want as close to this number as possible. That's the number they got in their head.
Yeah.
So how do we make that happen?
Gotcha.
So what they came back is, on the cash offer, they came back with 1.1. All other conditions the same.
Same. So that really identified to you that it's really about the money there, the fact that they didn't try and tweak any other conditions.
Exactly. When they came back on this one, they did adjust some of the conditions to make it similar. They came back at 1.2 here. They adjusted this to the same 60 days. So 60 days, they got rid of the permits, and they were okay with all of our other terms here. Now, what the seller didn't know is, in this scenario, without getting into private capital or anything like that, we had 150 grand. That's what we had to contribute to this deal. Because the property is not four season, it's not insulated property, it doesn't have a heat source, it's not financeable. You can't get a conventional mortgage there. So as a mortgage broker, I was aware of that, not really sure if the seller was. So this is really, even though I was willing, if I could get the price right on the cash side, I was willing to raise private money to do this. I wanted the VTB.
Yeah.
But I only had 150 grand. So going back to the fact that I knew they didn't need the money today, what we did is we came back and countered at 1.15 M, and we did a $50,000 deferred bonus on payout.
Okay.
So I gave him his 1.2.
Gotcha.
But he doesn't get the other 50 until we refi at the end of this deal when we've done construction again. So it goes back to finding out the motivation. He didn't need the money. What I did find out is he wanted, there was a, he had to pay real estate commissions, and he had some capital gains as well to pay. Even though he was doing the VTB, he had some cash out of his pocket. So he wanted, at least, if he was giving me $1 million VTB, 150 was his minimum number that he needed to pay his real estate, pay his land transfers,
cover his obligations.
Yeah, he didn't want to take any money out of his pocket to close the deal, but he wasn't concerned about the $1 million VTB. He didn't need that.
And that's a big point Kyle made there that I'd really like to just hit home for the audience. So most sellers are going to really have a problem paying out of pocket, right, in order to actually close or execute on a deal. So that's where, you know, understanding the tax implications of what you're asking for and things like that, because what's great with a VTB, he could defer a lot of those tax obligations.
Absolutely. If you're dealing with the seller directly, getting 100% VTB is more likely. If there's a realtor involved and you're getting a VTB, the seller is going to need to pay that real estate commission. Let's call it 5%. And as Matt mentioned, the seller doesn't want to sell you a property and go to the bank to pay the real estate check.
Exactly.
So I've completed now 2 VTBs, both times with realtors involved, and both times we're at 90%.
Yeah.
This one approximately, I think, a little bit higher than 90, or in the 90% range. So they want to see you put a little bit of skin in the game. They want to make sure they're not covering any expenses out of their pocket. But if you can make sense from a tax perspective, you can find out the motivation of the seller. They're comfortable with 3.99. The $50,000 deferred at the end, that helps them as well. So they're comfortable in this range. So that's how we did the deal.
I love it. So one other question I know a lot of people are going to have is, okay, so this isn't a year-round cottage. I'm going to guess it probably doesn't cash flow very well at that purchase price. How scary was it to lose the building permits?
To be honest with you, we're okay with it. We really do trust our realtor up here, not Justin Conoco with Prime Brokerage. Very, very knowledgeable realtor. Really guided us through this process start to finish. He was constantly going down to the building department. We got a really good feel. Do we have full permits of what we want to build right now? No, we do not. But we're confident in being able to build a structure here that will support a high valuation as an exit strategy. You know, we had the chance to go around and look at some of the cottages in the area. 2 doors down has a helicopter pad on the roof.
Guys.
So if the neighbor two doors down was able to get a helicopter pad on their roof, we're pretty confident in our ability to get permits for what we're looking to do.
Yeah, and again, I think it really comes down to having the right team members, right? You know, having that realtor go down, already probably having a relationship with the city hall and being able to talk to the building inspectors or the building permit department, that's what really is going to give you, you know, the comfort, if not the 100% certainty to move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So one other question that I know the audience is going to ask is, how did you decide this? How did you decide that a VTB was worth $100,000 more? Why not $200,000 or $50,000?
My lenders that I use for a lot of my other deals typically are in the 10% range. Okay. So I knew I could borrow the million at 10%. So that was my quick math.
I love it. That was a very concise answer.
Yeah.
So again, just for you guys, obviously 10% holding this 1 year, that's going to be 1.1 million, 1.1 here, almost, you know, an interest rate that doesn't matter. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And people ask me all the time, which one did you want? Candidly, I wanted the VTB just because I like, you know, I kind of got it in my head and yeah. I wanted it. But at the end of the day, in terms of my actual numbers here of how this worked, it doesn't really matter. If I could have picked up this property for 1.05, $100,000 less, borrowed it privately for a year and done my construction, I probably would be in the same position. The nice thing about the VTB is on the 3-year term, it's given me some flexibility. We were originally going to build 6 months after purchase because our 10-unit building that you and I have seen, you've seen and we've gone through, because of that building, we want that to be fully complete and done, just so we're not restrained by capital when we're building our dream home. I mentioned to you, Matt, that this property is yes, an investment and going to be, you know, an investment property for us. But my family is, in the last 5 years that we've been investing in real estate, we've taken risks, we've taken on debt, we've had some stressful nights in that time period. So this cottage, this vacation rental is kind of our, you know, our light at the end of the tunnel. Our
reward to yourself.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So we want to make sure we can build what we want, and it's going to be our dream home. So the 3-year term has given us the flexibility not to rush into construction.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I'm very glad I got the VTB, but when we were making the offers, it really made no difference to me what we got.
Yeah, I really do love the flexibility that having that extended time period gives you, just because you're not going to rush in, you're not going to make mistakes because you're just tight on time, all of that. I love the approach you took on this, and I know this is inspiring me to make some more offers, and I hope it inspires you guys to make more offers too.
Yep. If I can add one more thing here, Matt, the number one thing people ask is, how do you get these things? Ask.
Yes.
You need to ask people. You need to explain it to them. The other thing, I actually knew that I found out in our due diligence, in our pre-offer situation, that the seller's son was an accountant.
Okay.
One strategy that I recommend to a lot of people when offering VTBs, and this means a little bit of money out of your pocket on properties you might not buy. When we offer a VTB on a property, we offer a $300 non-refundable payment to the seller to have our offer reviewed by an accountant.
That is genius. I've never heard of someone doing that. In the past, I've had my accountant reach out and talk to them, but that's even better because it's going to give them really the trust to reach out to someone that they know and already have a working relationship with.
Yeah.
That's genius.
Yeah, and it could mean spending $300 that you're not getting back. Mm-hmm. I've never had somebody actually take my $300.
Yeah.
I've just offered it. They went and talked to their accountant didn't charge them, explained to them the benefits, and they came back. Now we're in a relationship, or now we're in a negotiation where they trust me, which is one of the greatest assets you can have in any negotiation.
That's an amazing tip, guys. Take notes.